Hi, good morning. Dougie here again with another daily. I can't be in the church studio that I have to record today, so I'm at home in my study. I rang a takeaway the other night and asked them, do they deliver? Nah, they said, only chicken, ham or beef. That's a Peter K one. Anyway, the next story in our stories about Elisha is told in the opening verses of 2 Kings chapter 6. It's short, so let me read the story to you. The company of the prophets said to Elisha, "Look, the place where we meet with you is too small for us. Let us go to the Jordan where each of us can get a pole, and let's build a place there for us to meet." And he said, "Go." Then one of them said, "Won't you please come with your servants?" "I will," Elisha replied, and he went with them. They went to the Jordan and began to cut down trees. As one of them was cutting down a tree, the iron axe head fell into the water. "Oh no, my lord," he cried out, "it was borrowed." The man of God asked, "Where did it fall?" When he showed him the place, Elisha cut a stick and threw it there, and made the iron float. "Lift it out," he said. Then the man reached out his hand and took it. He's not a man of many words, Elisha, is he? The prophets give him a proposition to build a bigger assembly hall or meeting place. It's not like it would be maybe today. Elisha does not suggest that they get a quote from the builders or that they form a subcommittee of the prophetic management team to investigate potential sites or to do up some sort of a profit and loss spreadsheet. Nope. He just says, "Go." When they then ask him if he will go with them, he doesn't faff around. He doesn't ask a load of questions. He just simply says, "I will." And he goes. While there's nothing wrong with being cautious, we need to consider our options at times. And having committees to investigate a way forward can indeed be a good idea. But we're also called to be decisive, rather than simply letting life pass us by. We need to make decisions about our future. Sometimes people have come and talked to me about what they believe is God's will for their life, or when they're trying to find out what God's will for their life is. And quite a bit of the time they've been indecisive. They wait to see what happens without doing very much to influence what will happen. And then they call that God's will. I suggest that actually if we are tuned into what we believe is God's plan or for our lives or the organization that we serve, we can usually make pretty fast decisions. But we do need to be tuned in, or else we can make decisions that simply keep the status quo because we don't want the hassle of change, or we're just too frightened to make big decisions. Anyway, Elisha was pretty decisive here. So he heads off with the prophets to the Jordan where they're building the new assembly house. One of the workmen loses the head of an axe into the water. And even worse, it's not his. He couldn't just head down to Woody's to get a new one. At that time, an axe head, or indeed anything made of iron, was extraordinarily valuable. Being a prophet, he would not have had much money, and he may have faced the prospect of becoming a bond servant, perhaps for up to a year or more to pay off the debt. The consequences for him were very serious. However, again we see Elisha is interested in the welfare of the group, as he had proved himself to be before, providing for widows and the sick. The miracle is pretty spectacular. Elisha cuts a stick, throws it into the river, and the iron floats. In fact, the King James Version of the Bible suggests that the axe head swam. Now, the only time that I've ever seen iron float is when it's part of the hull of a ship. An axe head would normally just sink into the mud, never to be found again. In the story, the prophet who lost it, I imagine, was a pretty happy guy when Elisha brings it back up to the surface. When the very tool he needs to serve God is gone, I'm sure he felt hopeless and frightened of the consequences, which was a pretty reasonable emotion to feel. However, he doesn't hang about either. He goes straight to the one person who can do something about it. Elisha acts prophetically as a foretaste of Christ, as so many of the prophets did. We too can go to the source of mercy and restoration when we have lost something. We may not have physically lost an item. We may have just lost our edge, our passion, or our way in life. God cares. He cares enough to offer us restoration and to help us find whatever it is that we have lost. I wonder when Elisha threw the length of wood, did it somehow miraculously attach itself to the iron axe head? And did he lift out a new axe? That would have been something. Either way, I can imagine how relieved the guy was to get his axe back. This morning, ask yourself, do you need to ask our Heavenly Father for something back that you've lost? If you do, He's listening. See you next time.